Well, again, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the next in our webinar series with the Business Resiliency Program for the province. My name is Glenn Manzik. I think if Deirdre, you could change the slide. Thank you very much. My name is Glenn Manzik. I'm President and CEO of the Thompson Okanagan Tourism Association and also a member and chair of the British Columbia Regional Tourism Secretary at the BCTRS. As Anthony Everett, CEO of the Tourism Vancouver Island, mentioned on the last Vancouver Island Coastal Resiliency Program webinar, the Vancouver Island program, who many of you on this call are registered for, is evolving across British Columbia. This is our very first province-wide webinar for the Tourism Resiliency Program, so I'd like to welcome you all from across BC. This is the first of many, as a matter of fact, as we will be hosting a second province-wide webinar this week on how to use the Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy Calculator. We know it's a very complex system, and we want to provide some more insight to you around the usage of this service. And so this webinar will take place on Thursday, May 7th at 1 p.m. And you're encouraged to register on the Tourism Resiliency Program website at tourismresiliency.ca. This morning's webinar will be recorded and posted to the Tourism Resiliency Program website. And there will be time for questions at the end of today's webinar and using the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. The Tourism Resiliency Program was created in partnership with the Ministry of Tourism, Arts and Culture, the BC Regional Tourism Secretariat, and the Vancouver Coast and Mountains Tourism Region, managed by Tourism British Columbia. The British Columbia Tourism Secretariat is a formal partnership between British Columbia's 5 regional destination management organizations, including Tourism Vancouver Island, Thompson Okanagan Tourism Association, the Kootenay Rockies Tourism Association, Cariboo-Chilcotin Coast Tourism Association, and Northern British Columbia Tourism Association, to build and share collective expertise and collaborate and lead initiatives of shared regional importance across British Columbia. If I could just have the next slide. This is a long-term resiliency program that we have worked on collectively to provide BC tourism businesses such as yourself with meaningful one-on-one support to navigate the impact of this COVID-19 pandemic and adapt and work towards eventual recovery. There are already 400 tourism businesses across British Columbia registered in this program, with more signing up daily to participate as the program continues to roll out across British Columbia. To date, our teams have connected over the phone with just under 100 businesses through this process. And if you haven't already signed up, please register at tourismresiliency.ca and select the region in which you are do business in. Before we get started with today's webinar, I'd like to acknowledge the partners. We've got some great, generous partners who are working with us in order to effectively deliver our initiatives and to deliver this webinar today. To those of you who are new to the program, I'd like to acknowledge that the Ministry, of course, Tourism, Arts and Culture, Indigenous Tourism BC, the Island Coastal Economic Trust, who has been a founding funder of this initiative and a significant partner, Chemistry Consulting, the British Columbia Tourism Secretariat, as I mentioned, and Destination BC. So now on to today's webinar. I'd like to introduce to you Deirdre Campbell. It's my pleasure to introduce you to her. I've had the opportunity to work with her in the past, and I can't say enough about her in terms of the professionalism and their approach to working with all the businesses that she comes across and has the opportunity to work with. She is the managing director of the Canadian-based Beattie Tartan. Deirdre has been entrenched and an integrated communication business for more than 20 years. What began as a West Coast-based boutique PR agency called Tartan in 2001 with a handful of Canadian signature tourism experiences, she's quickly expanded internationally with a range of sustainable businesses across North, Central, and South America. Deirdre is an avid entrepreneur who is nicknamed the Connector. Deirdre's passion for strategic communications, storytelling, reputation management, crisis communications has earned clients from the tourism, food and beverage, real estate, technology, healthcare, wellness, not-for-profit industries. Certainly the best person to be sharing with us her insights today. In 2017, Tartan merged with Beattie Group, a UK-based PR firm with over 34 years of experiences in 12 offices. And today, Deirdre leads a team in offices in Toronto and Vancouver, Victoria and Calgary, and associates in Ottawa, Winnipeg, Montreal, and New York. She's been nominated for many awards, including Business Person and PR Professional of the Year, recognized by the YM and YWCA Women of Distinction Award for her work in the community, and just recently in 2019 was provided by Destination Greater Victoria with the Miracle Award for her work in tourism. Deirdre and Beattie Tartan also has co-founded the annual Impact Sustainable Tourism and Travel Conference held in Victoria, which of course we hold near and dear to our heart because we believe firmly in what she's doing with that. So without further ado, I want to pass the floor over to Deirdre, who will lead us through the next, say 15 to 20 minutes or so with a presentation to give us some deeper insights on reputation management in this time of COVID. So Deirdre, take it away.
Great, thank you, Glenn, and I really appreciate that introduction. I told you to cut it short, but anyways, it's great to be here with everyone. British Columbia, near and dear to my heart, of course. Started my career here and continue my career here, and so I'm really happy, and I look forward to your questions. I Glenn mentioned that we work with a number of different industries, and one of the industries we've been working with is the academic. The University of Victoria and the Gustafson School of Business, which is what drove me to really get interested in what is reputation management around trust. So when I was asked to do this session, I wanted to start off with a bit of a discussion on what we have learned over the years. Gustafson School of Business does a brand trust index every year, and this is their 5th year. And what they do is they actually go in and they survey Canadians across the country, and they ask them, what Canadian brands do you trust the most, and why do you trust them? And that research has created what you see here in front of you, a number of ways that people look to or decide how they work with or decide on the brands that they choose to do business with. This year was going to be interesting because we did our research for the Brand Trust Index at the beginning of the year, as we normally do, because we normally launch in May. However, after COVID hit, they actually went out again with another survey. So we do have results on pre and post COVID, and we do see some anomalies and changes. So I can talk a little bit about that. But most importantly, one of the things we talk to our clients about when they're doing their storytelling, when they're engaging with their stakeholders and their consumers, is how important it is to have a balanced approach to trust. And what I mean by that is to look at all sides of how you operate. And over the years, we've learned that many of the brands that we like and we do business with, they function very well. They deliver what they promised. And they often reach out and they treat us as consumers very well, as they talk to us, they communicate with us, which is really important. But in the past, what we saw was that values-based trust was something that a lot of brands didn't do well. And that meant that they didn't talk about what they stood for, what is their purpose, what they do in the community, how they work with their employees. And often those brands that rose to the top are the ones that were, again, very balanced on all areas, but they also spoke a lot about what they stood for and what their values are. Companies like Nike, companies like MEC that we love, a lot of CAA always rose on top. what's interesting, and that creates that word of mouth that's so important, because we often call it friend of mine awareness. So when you're asking for, where should I have dinner? Where should I visit next? Where should I eat when I go to the Thompson Okanagan or in Kelowna? Where should I stay? You often ask your friends. That invaluable word of mouth is really what helps drive that business as well, which is what we're trying to push out there. So you're going to hear me talk about these various areas when we talk about communications, because of course that's what reputation management as a communicator is really one of the most important foundational initiatives that you need to do. You need to walk the talk, of course, but you need to communicate. And you're going to hear me touch on some of these, because I'm going to talk a little bit about functional trust, because now more than ever, consumers, they do want to know what you stand for, but they also want to know what are your health and safety standards going forward based on COVID. After 9/11, people wanted to know about security. We're hearing that more and more. So, if you want a crash course on crisis communications, you just need to look to Dr. Bonnie Henry. A consistent message. She stays on point. She shows compassion. She provides hope in her messaging, which I think is really important. We are getting hearing from media as well as from consumers. They want some good news stories. They've heard a lot about the bad news. So now is the time to communicate more than ever. Some of our clients have sort of talked about maybe taking a back seat, quietening down their social media, not sure what to say. And we say you need to do the opposite. It is time for you to reach out to your clients and your guests. Talk to your local officials. They need to understand more than ever. This is the time for tourism to truly educate those stakeholders and government officials that we've been trying to educate for years on the power of tourism, and talk about what it is you need. It's so important. You can't be shy. Deliver the bad news, especially when you're talking to guests. A lot of it has been wait and see when it comes to refunds and whether or not you're going to be able to move ahead from one month to the next. You still need to talk to and inform your guests and your employees about what's happening. Going silent is never an option. And the cardinal rule of communications is when there is a gap in communications, people fill it. They fill it with speculation. They fill it with rumors. So you want to be in charge of your own communications when it comes to your business about what it is you're doing. Definitely, this is the time to refer to your experts. Quote them, respect them. We're seeing that that's where people are looking to right now, is they're tuning in more than ever. I think Keith Baldry recently wrote a whole article about the fact that the best watched show on TV right now is the Bonnie Henry Show, and she gets on TV and does her daily talks. And again, you want to become that trusted source as well. So if your relationships with guests, if they were going to come and visit you or come to your experience, they're going to go to your website, they're going to look for updates. And this is where you really want to be useful. We talk about not being tone deaf at this time, where you're actually trying to sell too soon, but you're actually creating information that is useful for them. So following the response, recovery, and resilience that we keep hearing about over the last couple of days, right now we're moving slowly into recovery, I would argue, but we're still in that response stage. And that is, again, as I mentioned, you want to keep checking in with people. You want to let them know, hear what they're saying, hear what questions they have. If you don't have the answers, you can get it, go find it for them. You want to be, again, that resource. We call it out helping the competition. We mean that you want to be that first choice that they go to if they're trying to make a decision of where they're going to travel to, when they're still, you want to convert their business in the future. You want to build that relationship now with them, and you want to be that person with the most useful information for them, or able to point them to where the best information is. Similar to the wildfire seasons that we've had, or any of our natural disasters, we point them to the government sites that we know we can trust. Again, keep talking to your government officials. We're hearing that over and over again on the different sessions. From the Minister Jolie saying, I want to hear what's happening, to our local Minister Bear, to the local mayors of towns. They want to understand what the impact is to tourism and how they can help and what's needed. And really, really lead with respect for the science and health industry experts. We're seeing that globally, and we're hearing that globally, is countries that are relying on the science to make their decisions are the countries that are getting the respect and the trust. Never speculate. So that's an important message as well. As we slowly get into the recovery stage, we hope, this is where we are starting to see over the last week or so stories of inspiration, reminders of how beautiful it was this time last year. Maybe if you came out and visited the Thompson Okanagan and it's in all its glory in the spring Whistler, this is the time to start sharing those stories and you know, all those messages of we can't wait to welcome you back, maybe not now, but soon. And again, it's really important to be open and authentic with your guests and letting them know. We had a couple of clients who were in a wait and see period where whether or not they were going to be able to go ahead in May and June, and then government initiatives came through that made it so that they can't move forward. And they let their guests know along the way that this is what the holdup was whether or not they were going to be able to provide rebookings or cancellation insurance was be able to kick in. Everybody was in that limbo stage, and that was hard on everybody. But as soon as you have information, put it forward to them. And we've seen really good results from guests who perhaps at the beginning were upset, are now understanding and supportive of rebooking or not necessarily requesting refunds, although that is happening. And I know it's tough on everybody. To that point, remember the 20-60-20 rule, which of communications, which you'll always have that 20% that will support you along the way. 20% won't care and they'll want their money back no matter what. That's just, and they may be in a desperate situation, who knows? And that's that kindness factor and empathy that Dr. Henry is preaching. But there are 60% of people typically that are needing to be educated, that are on the fence, that you really want to focus your attention on and helping again to educate on what it is and how your business operates and what you're hoping for in the future. Don't be afraid to ask for help and for patience during this time, particularly from your clients and your employees who are also feeling stressed. And I think we're in this together is a very strong message that we've heard over the history, and that collaborative approach is really important. And I can't say this enough, you have to you really do point to your trusted resources and let your stakeholders know that there exists. There's lots of good information online. I know it's overwhelming sometimes, but your PMOs, your regional DMOs, your Destination Canada, TIAX, TIA BC, and even the Adventure Travel Trade Association, they're all doing good work, and it's consumer facing in some cases as well. There's lots of strong messaging about, as a traveler to your destination, here's what you should know. So it's, again, in that recovery stage, out helping the competition with really useful information is key. As we move into the resilience stage, to show that this is where it is critical, people want to know what's changed. How are you doing things differently? How are you looking after my health and safety? We're building trust not only in your business, but we're also building trust as our destination. And if we don't work together as a destination, then it's harder than ever for people to trust you. It just takes one bad experience with one operator that can ruin, as we all know through years of TripAdvisor, can ruin a guest's experience in a destination. So from a tourism perspective, it very much needs to be a collaborative approach. Lots of pressure right now about, can we open at May long weekend? What should we be doing? And our message to everyone is work together as a region. Don't go it alone. The lone wolf right now will be the one that gets the most criticism, and you definitely don't want to give your guests in a position where they're shamed for going somewhere that perhaps they shouldn't be going. Definitely communicate those changes. As I mentioned, health and safety is so important right now. So focus on your training, your health, hygiene, and lead with a safety first approach. After 9/11, the talk was without security, there will be no travel. Now they're saying without training on health and safety, there will be no industry. So everybody is looking at this sort of these safety standards, the health standards that are being put out. Look to your Tourism HR Canada, look to your Hotel Association of British Columbia and Canada. They're all working together to put these standards in place at the very highest level. And some of them are out available to you now, as you know. That sharing of best practice is going to be critical. And I heard this quote that no one wins if we have another outbreak, and the enemy is not each other. The enemy right now is COVID-19. So as by working together and sharing those best practices, I think that's, and showing that that collaboration exists within your region, even if it's a small region, a small town like Oliver, or whether it's a larger region like Vancouver, we have to show that we're working together. Those messages is important. And creativity and innovation will be the game changers. We've seen that already. We've seen breweries that have made hand sanitizers with connecting with another distillery like Vancouver Island Brewery. We've seen, people making masks. We've seen people kind of creating new ways of dining. Everyone, I think, has seen those shots that have been put out on Instagram about new ways of dining. That creativity and innovation is what's really going to be supported, and people are going to look for those ideas, and don't be afraid to share them amongst each other to see how it works. And in the new normal, this is what it's really important to communicate again for reputation is, have this information available again on your websites, FAQs, really important. People are going to try to figure out, well, what's the new luxury and experiences? Is it high touch anymore? How do I go to a destination or experience and not necessarily be surrounded by people? How do I feed myself? Do I have to go to the restaurant, or can I have food delivered to my room? What if I do need medical attention? What are the security measures in place of other guests arriving? These are all questions that people are going to be asking. They're going to ask about your cleaning standards. What if I do book for the fall and things change and we have another outbreak? What's your cancellation policy? What's the level of human interaction on site? Again, showing that you're anticipating these concerns and showing that compassionate, empathetic side, that's so important. Again, so don't be afraid to talk about, well, you can stay on property, or we're close by to, the region which you're staying, or the city center, or the neighborhood that you're staying in. We're all working together to do the highest possible standards. So your entertainment is close by. Those sort of questions are going to be popping up. And then again, promoting what you've done, maybe what's new, what's different. People are looking for again, hope, and they're looking for humor, and they're looking for fun. So as well. So don't be afraid to talk about that how you've ensured that your experience is still going to be fun and interesting, and different from what it was pre-COVID. Whole list of trusted resources that you have probably know many of them. I just wanted to put them up there. These are sites that we comb regularly to get information. There's webinars coming up that you hear about, Destination Canada doing it. These resilience webinars are going to be excellent, and I'm really proud that BC has stepped up to the plate for this. Many of you are members of the Adventure Travel Trade Association. They're doing these coffee chats, and they're bringing in people from all over. So if you want a global perspective of what's happening, they're a good source. They did recently put out financial strategies and tactics for eventual travel businesses during economic uncertainty. So they're also have lots of free resources. I think a lot of the tourism industry resources are putting out things for free now. They understand that the money is an issue. Even Skift, if you like Skift, if you don't follow Skift, I recommend you do. SKIFT, wonderful resource, very connected, and they're offering their webinars for free. Normally they're quite expensive, or by donation. So these are all resources. Happy to talk more about this. And I'm going to turn it back to Glenn and Hannah. I know I kind of rushed through this. Happy to answer questions, but thanks again for the opportunity.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Deirdre. I've asked Hannah Grant from Tourism Vancouver Island Tourism Association to kind of monitor the questions as they come in. And Hannah, can you go through the questions?
Absolutely. Thank you, Deirdre.
Thanks.
We have a couple questions that came in for you after that. We operate charter boats where social distancing is very difficult. Is this a subject we should be openly discussing? Does it look negative for this type of tourism product? Or does it look transparent and positive that we are addressing it?
Yeah, we have a client very similar. I think it looks that you're authentic and transparent if you're discussing it, because if you have that question, you can bet that your guest has that question. And anything, unfortunately, because there's been so much negative pushback on cruising, anything that's associated with a boat, because it's been the perception of it being close quarters, it makes it a topic of discussion for a lot of people who are making those choices. So I think if you showed to your guests that you're open to their questions, that you've considered the health and safety of their visit. And these are the things that you've quote experts. If you've got experts, you can talk to about it, but definitely address it up front, because they'll have that question. If they don't see it, they lose a little bit of trust. If they think you're whitewashing a little bit, or you're making it better than it should be. We're hearing a lot of backlash by the cruise industry because they're talking about going ahead in August 1st, and yet there's no discussion about what are you changing. They're just saying we're open to cruising again. So that just gives you a sense of that people are wanting to hear upfront what you're doing to make sure that they're healthy and safe.
Thank you. Our next question is, this might be for you as well, Glenn. What kind of future do you foresee for the guided tour operators, including, but not exclusively to, guided wine tours?
Yeah, I can speak to that a little bit, and then Glenn, over to you. Certainly that's been a big part of the discussions around ATTA, because a lot of their members are tour operators. Again, I think the tour operator has a special role to play in the health and safety, as far as taking charge of the actual experience, right? Being someone who's going to guide you through versus something in a way that is putting your health and safety first. So that I think we feel that there was going to be a higher demand for these guided experiences, so that you have a trusted expert that's with you. So my hope is that is also in the food culinary tourism industry and wine tourism.
Yeah, it's a great comment, and it's obviously a cornerstone of product across British Columbia, in particular. As Matcha, I think it's the questions from Matcha. Obviously, wine tour operations in the Thompson Okanagan region are critical for its success as a collective industry. And one of the things that we put forward just recently to government is around providing sets of guidelines to effectively and safely operate. And because at the point we weren't seeing somebody really advocating in terms of that particular sector. And so that now is in the system as we speak, and hopefully some safety guidelines and management guidelines will be coming out soon around this particular sector. And once that's in place, then we can get the wheels moving again.
Great. Next question. How do you manage the fear of rural and remote communities when it's time to open up?
Yeah, and when you're talking about fear, you're thinking the fear of the communities that are around your business, and they don't want visitors coming in. Again, it has to be an open discussion. I think they need to. I think we're hearing this a lot, particularly in very remote communities that are asking people not to travel, and we're being very respectful of that. However, I think they also are starting to feel that the tourism industry is so important to them to build it back up. So they want to know how you're taking care of your guests and what you're doing in order to maintain the health and safety of the visitors, but also their employees, because the employees go back into the community, are the ones that tend to go back into the community as well and could possibly be a carrier. So it is that open discussion again. Getting their feedback on what they feel are the measures, the standards as well. It's a relationship that tension between tourism and residents is often there if it's not a good relationship to begin with. The other thing I wanted to point out is your tourism experience starts the moment a person steps into their car or onto a plane or onto a boat and starts to travel to your destination. So all those touch points are part of your experience. So that's why it's so critical to look at how people get to where you are, and also the businesses around you, that you are talking about the level of health and safety standards that you all want to have. If people feel unsafe as soon as they get on a plane, float plane perhaps, because their pilot isn't wearing a mask and they feel they should be, I mean, it's not going to set them up for a good experience, and they're going to not trust that all the proper measures have been taken. So I think residents feel the same way. They want to trust that the right steps are being made in order to take care of the health and safety of them and the employees that are working for you.
Great. The next question for you says, great job, Deirdre. How do you think hotels can best establish safety procedures, such as keeping guests apart in the lobby, and communicate that to their guests?
Yeah, I think in a weird way, we're lucky that it's a global pandemic. So we're not bringing people in. And again, it'll be domestic first. We all know that. It's going to be very local. So we're not inviting guests in who have no clue what's been going on. So I think information should be posted on your website about what you're doing, including, separation issues, or I don't even know what the proper term would be. But definitely having that information on your website. So a nice pre-arrival message. I have clients that do that for all their guests, where they say what you should expect before you arrive. And again, you even saying to them, we ask that we will have masks on site, but we ask that you bring a mask if you like, and different things, so that they know ahead of time what's in store for them. When you arrive in the lobby, there will be someone there to greet you. We do ask that you respect social distancing, and we will be letting people, check in one at a time. And we have a special area where we can serve you coffee, or you can stand as we wait, that kind of stuff. So one of our clients talked about the need to kind of plot out the customer journey all the way along, so that they can understand what the touch points are and convey that back to the guests before they arrive.
Great. Our next question is, do you have any tips on avoiding social shaming while operating an RV campground? I know we've seen a lot of social media comments, all of us on our channel. So how do businesses wade through that?
Yeah, again, I think by being very open and transparent about how you're operating and responding to concerns that are raised socially, we're always going to have those trolls or those people that go off the rails a little bit on social. We've seen that already for some clients, mostly around money refunds. But I think from social shaming, as far as people maybe saying there's too many people gathering in one spot, or I think to recognize the concerns, address how you're going to request that you have consistent or policies in place. Policies sounds kind of weird for a hospitality industry where we're so kind of empathetic and caring. But I think you need to respect the concern and maybe let them know what you're doing in order to mitigate it happening again. And be open, because people will read those comments. It's like TripAdvisor. If you think about it, we used to always say, when you're choosing a place in TripAdvisor, you ignore the really high, the really wonderful ones and the really awful ones, and you look at the middle. But you also look at how people respond. And I think that's what happens on social media. People want to know if you're paying attention and you're responding as a business, and then they'll make their own decisions. But being very open and transparent again about what your health and safety standards are and what you're doing in order to support a safe environment is really important.
Great. So we do have quite a few more questions in the Q&A, but taking a look through them, they look like they're a bit more business specific or not related to reputation management. So what we'll do is collect all these Q&As that you've been submitting, and we'll make sure that we get back to each and every one of you individually with any sort of resources that we might have for you, or let you know your sector association that can help you navigate through those guidelines. Glenn, anything?
Great, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you very much, Deirdre. Thank you for that tremendous insight into the world of reputation management, and something that we're all grappling with as we go and as the COVID-19 pandemic continues to embrace us all. This is a very important topic for how we manage our business, and thank you for giving us that baseline and deep insights into effective reputation management. And I know this is going to be a topic that we'll continue to bring together and continue to discuss as the weeks and months go on through this process. But we wanted to get this out to you now to start to address and identify some of the questions and answer some of the questions that you have. So I want to take this time to again thank and acknowledge our partners that you see on the screen. Without their participation, this would not be possible. And finally, if you'd like to register for this program in your area, please visit tourismresiliency.ca. You can also sign up for our next webinar, which will take place on Thursday at 1 p.m. and will cover on how to use the new Canada Emergency Wage Subsidy calculator. And so we look forward to seeing you on Thursday. Thank you again for attending today's webinar, and have a great day.